My name is Kwame, and for years, I lived what everyone thought was the perfect life. I had a good job, a beautiful wife named Zola, and two wonderful children. From the outside, everything seemed flawless. But behind closed doors, our marriage was quietly falling apart. Zola and I had grown distant. We used to talk for hours, laugh at silly jokes, and dream together. But over time, work, responsibilities, and unspoken resentments built walls between us. I became preoccupied with my career, working late hours, always chasing promotions. Zola stayed home, raising our children and slowly losing herself. I didn't notice it at first. I thought we were just busy, just tired. But slowly, the silence became louder than any words could be. We rarely touched. We slept on the same bed, but lived in different worlds. I'd come home, nod at her, eat dinner, scroll through my phone, and fall asleep. She never complained. She just smiled, like always, but the sadness in her eyes haunted me. Then came the night everything changed. I had returned home later than usual. The house was quiet. I walked upstairs, and as I passed by our bedroom door, I heard her voice. She was whispering. I paused. It wasn't the words that stunned me, it was the way she said them. With longing, with desire, with a kind of breathless ache I hadn't heard from her in years. And then I heard a name. Not mine, not anyone I knew. She moaned it softly, as if savoring it. My heart dropped. I felt like the floor vanished beneath me. I stood frozen. I didn't know whether to storm in or walk away. In the end, I did neither. I sat on the stairs all night, trying to piece together the man I had become, the husband who had ignored his wife into someone else's arms. The next morning, she acted as if nothing happened. She served breakfast, packed the kids' lunches, and kissed my cheek, but I couldn't unhear her voice. I couldn't ignore the truth. I had failed her, not through betrayal, but through neglect, through silence, through absence. I didn't confront her, not immediately. Instead, I started paying attention. I watched her. I listened. I realized how much I had missed, how invisible she must have felt. I remembered the woman I had fallen in love with, the woman who once danced in the kitchen barefoot, who cried at sad movies, who painted in the garage when she needed to think. I wanted her back, not just her body, but her soul. So I changed. I started coming home early. I put away my phone. I asked her about her day. I looked into her eyes when she spoke. At first, she was cautious, distant, but slowly, she began to soften. She laughed at my jokes again. She reached for my hand. She sang in the kitchen. One evening, I told her I heard her that night. Her face turned pale. She looked down. I told her I wasn't angry, that I didn't blame her, that I blamed myself. And then I asked her one question. Do you still love me? She cried. She said yes, but she was lonely. She said she missed being seen, being desired, being needed. That night, we talked for hours, cried, held each other. It wasn't easy. Healing never is, but it was real. We rebuilt slowly, one truth at a time. Today, Zola and I are not perfect, but we are honest, present, and more in love than we ever were before. Let this be a reminder to anyone out there. Love isn't lost in a moment. It fades in silence, in neglect, in forgetting to look up. Don't wait until your partner whispers someone else's name. Hear their silence before it becomes a scream. It's been 8 months since that night changed everything. Zola and I now live in a space filled with quiet understanding. But healing isn't a straight line. Some days are soft. Some days, the past returns like an old ghost, and we have to choose each other all over again. One Sunday morning, I found her staring out the window, holding her coffee, quiet. The kids were outside playing. I walked over and touched her back. She didn't flinch, but I could feel her body tense. Are you okay? I asked. She nodded slowly, but her eyes stayed on the horizon. Do you ever think about him? I asked. She didn't answer right away. When she finally turned to face me, her expression wasn't defensive, it was tired. I never meant to feel anything for him, she said. I didn't go looking for it. It just happened when I felt like I didn't exist anymore. I looked at her, not as a man betrayed, but as a man finally awake. I nodded. I know. And I'm sorry I made you feel invisible. We stood there in silence for a moment longer, and then she reached for my hand. Her fingers were cold, but her grip was firm. I ended it, she whispered. I ended it long before that night. But I never told you because I was ashamed. My chest tightened, not with anger but with gratitude. For her honesty, for her willingness to be seen. That afternoon, we took a walk together. Just the two of us. Like we used to. We didn't talk much, but something about the rhythm of our steps beside each other felt healing. She stopped by a flowering bush, knelt down, and plucked a single purple bloom. She handed it to me with a half smile. "For not giving up on me," she said. Later that evening, I found her old paint supplies in the garage. I dusted them off and brought them into the living room. She looked at me, puzzled. "I thought maybe you'd like to start painting again," I said. She stared at the brushes for a long time. Then she sat down, dipped one in paint, and began to move it across the canvas. Her face softened, her shoulders relaxed, and for the first time in a long time, I saw the light return to her eyes. We're still rebuilding, still learning each other again, still unlearning the bad habits that made us strangers. But now, we speak before the silence grows. We touch before the distance settles. And every night before bed, I whisper her name, just to remind her that I still see her, that I always will. 3 weeks later, our son, Tay, came home from school with a drawing. It showed our family, me, Zola, his sister Amma, and him standing under a giant tree, all holding hands. But there was something different. In the center of the tree, he had drawn a bright red heart. "I drew this because we're together again," he said, smiling. Zola's eyes welled up. She pulled him into her arms, and I just stood there, amazed at how children often see what adults try to hide. But the past has a strange way of testing your healing. One Saturday evening, Zola and I were shopping for groceries when she suddenly froze in the aisle. I turned to see what caught her eye, and that's when I saw him. The man, the name she once whispered. He was just a few feet away, staring right at her. He looked older, tired, but his presence was sharp like a knife dragged across old wounds. He approached slowly, respectfully. "Zola," he said, his voice low. She stepped back slightly and glanced at me. I moved closer, not as a threat, but as her husband, present, steady, unshaken. She raised her chin and spoke softly. "Hello, Malik. This is my husband, Kwame." Malik extended his hand. I shook it firm but calm. There was no need for anger. The war had already been fought, and we had survived it. After a brief, awkward silence, Malik said, "I just wanted to say, you deserve happiness." Zola gave him a nod. "Thank you. I have it now." And just like that, he walked away. No drama, no confrontation, just closure. That night, back home, we sat on the couch, wrapped in silence. Not a cold silence, but the kind that follows relief. "He looked different," she said quietly, "smaller somehow." I nodded. "Sometimes when we stop feeding something, it shrinks." She turned to me, her eyes searching. "You weren't angry?" I shook my head. I was proud. We kissed that night not out of habit, but from truth. From everything we had walked through and refused to let break us. And in that kiss, I felt something I hadn't in years, peace. The following weekend, Zola hosted a small art exhibit at a local community center. She showcased her new paintings, vibrant, soulful, full of motion. People stopped and stared, moved by the emotion in every brushstroke. One woman whispered, "This feels like healing." Zola smiled. "It is." I stood in the back watching her come alive. She wasn't just my wife. She was a woman reborn. And I realized something that night. I didn't just fight for my marriage. I fought for her joy, her fire, her voice. Sometimes, love isn't just staying. It's waking up. It's choosing each other, even when the easy thing would be to give up. And sometimes, the greatest apology isn't words, it's showing up when it matters most. A year after everything broke and healed again, I found myself standing in front of a tailor's mirror, adjusting the collar of a white linen shirt. Tay and Alma were buzzing with excitement beside me, their tiny hands clutching paper rings they made from gold foil. Today wasn't just any day. Today, we were renewing our vows. Zola stood barefoot in the garden behind our home, surrounded by soft lights and the sound of a local drummer humming gently in the background. She wore a simple dress, yellow like the first sunrise we watched together after we fell in love. Her hair was wrapped in a gold scarf, her smile blooming like something sacred. She looked like peace. She looked like home. Our friends and neighbors gathered in a circle, not for a grand ceremony but for something honest, true. Zola's sister led the small ritual. When it was my turn to speak, I looked into Zola's eyes and took a deep breath. I didn't always get it right, I said. There were days I forgot to see you, moments I lost my way. But you never stopped being the woman who taught me what grace looks like. Today, I vow again, not just to love you, but to see you, to hear you, to choose you, every single day. She smiled through tears, then stepped closer. Kwame, she said softly, there was a time I thought we were over. But what I didn't know then was that even broken things can bloom again. You showed up, you fought for us, and you helped me remember my own worth. Today, I vow to honor the man you are and the man you're still becoming. Our kids brought the rings, tiny handmade ones laced with laughter and glue. We placed them gently on each other's fingers, more symbolic than shiny, but somehow more precious than gold.as. The sun dipped behind the mango trees. We danced, not perfectly, not gracefully, but joyfully. Neighbors clapped, the children laughed, and Zola's laughter, God, that laughter rose above the music like a song that healed everything. That night, after everyone left, we sat under the stars with tired feet and full hearts. Zola rested her head on my shoulder. I didn't know love could survive storms like ours, she whispered. I kissed her forehead. It doesn't just survive, I said. It becomes something stronger after the storm. She nodded. And we sat there, the two of us, wrapped in moonlight, wrapped in memories, wrapped in grace. We didn't have a perfect love story, but we had a true one. One that bled, one that bent, one that broke and rebuilt itself, stronger and softer. And in that truth, we found something even better than perfection. We found us reborn.